Publisher and editor, Hawgs Illustrated. You can read his stuff at Whole Hog Sports. And Clay, good to be with you just a day before we turn the page to 2021. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, I really think this is the calendar that I want to burn. You guys talk about crumpling up the score sheet.
Yeah.
How about we crumple up the calendar?
Yeah.
At least March through December.
Just picture a nice big fat Viking funeral for year 2020 is the way to do it. Burn that thing down. I hope 2021 is better. I'm just not sure if we can guarantee.
I live in Norfolk, and I can make fires in my yard anytime I want to. There's, I guess that we have burn bans occasionally, but, driving down the road and seeing a barrel with stuff burning in it's pretty common occurrence over here.
I kind of wondered if you were thinking about something burning last night with Texas rolling in their bowl game with a quarterback that Arkansas very well may see next year.
Yep.
I always love getting you going on Texas. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah. And it was a uneasy thing from the very start because when I turned it on, there was Mark Curls and an SEC crew. I don't know if you realize, but Mark Curls.
I seen a lot of tweets about that last night that he was the officiating crew.
Yeah, that was the first thing that jumped out. It's like seeing his little smiling face, and then I don't know who the color analyst was. And about halfway through, it's like they're letting them play. I was like, oh boy, you just wait, and the flag started flying.
Now, wasn't there there was a controversial flag, wasn't there? Because I think I saw on Twitter, and that's why
there were some calls. Yeah,
there were some calls like they picked up a flag, or they didn't even throw it on the targeting play that Texas did on Colorado.
They completely blew the targeting play. It was at worst, or at best, however you want to look at it. They hit the guy late. He's in his slide, and the guy comes in and just crushed him on the ground while he's sliding. And they called that, they called it targeting, but they didn't call it a personal foul late hit. And so when the replay, they can't change that. So when they reversed the targeting, that meant there was no penalty at all, which was just sad. And but yeah, and then the flags just started going like crazy.
I got it. I was going to ask you a question, but I think W in Wix puts it perfectly on our text line, and I can't use all the language that he uses, but I could not imagine a stadium filled with more hatred for that you would have, Clay, and that a lot of people in Arkansas would have, other than Texas and Mark Curls on the same football field.
Yep, I mean, once the other part that kind of hit home to me is the backup quarterback that came in is Charles Thompson. Well, he's the quarterback that pretty much ended Barry Switzer's reign at Oklahoma's dad. He was the one that was selling drugs and had the guns and everything. It was a crazy time in Oklahoma, and I'm just like, that's his son. And Arkansas is going to have to play him next year, right? I mean, that's September 11th. The Horns are coming to Fayetteville, right?
Sure hope so. If that happens, then we have done very well over the next few months. So hopefully that is the case. I don't want to look ahead too much because let's. Obviously a bummer that you don't get no Texas Bowl, no chance to end the season on a high note necessarily, but
my plan was to be on the road right now.
Yeah,
I would have left probably about 10 this morning, and I would be talking to you guys probably between Little Rock and Benton maybe on the way down. I was going to hit Texarkana and go down 59, and I've learned, don't make hotel reservations this football season. Just don't make them. And then when you get on the road, you can pull over somewhere. You're going when you're on the road. But there's been so many stops and starts. Don't make any reservations because every hotel is empty. There's not any problem getting a room. So I was going to, somewhere south of Texarkana, around maybe Marshall, I was going to make a reservation probably for someplace like Lufkin or Carthage and stay there tonight. And then after the game, drive back to there. That's the way I roll these days. I don't get in planes. So
well, I did. I was, me. I
you
got back
can't
from
drive
Canada.
to Canada.
I could, but that would have.
How long of a drive
taken,
would that be to Canada for you?
It's about 4 days without stopping. Yeah, it would. Yeah, maybe I'll pull that off when I take like an entire month off sometime. I don't know when that's going to happen.
Well, then you're talking about a travel vacation, not a visit. That was a visit. You're going for a purpose.
That was a visit.
Yeah, you would do that if you had the kids with you. That'd be the thing to do. See the Badlands and then get over to Glacier National Park and then go up, right?
We could do some exploring in the Canadian Rockies too, and check out
gorgeous.
Vancouver. It's not too far. I'd love to see that.
So if I hit the lottery and I've got about 4 or 5 buddies that we've made a pact, and you don't know you find out how close your friends are when they hit the lottery, but our pact is if any of us hits the lottery, we're going to do 1 week. There's a train ride. You go pretty close to Calgary, and you go through the Rocky Mountains, and it's like 3 cars, and there's a cooking. These old travel trains, and one is for bunks, and another one is for cooking. And they stop the train, and you get off, and you walk down the hill, and you walk into the most gorgeous trout stream ever, and you fish with a guide. Then you come back, and they've got your wine and your deluxe meal, and then during the night you move 100 miles, and you do it again. So it isn't cheap. It's like $10,000 a person. So, but it apparently is the most gorgeous trip ever. And I think there's a. If you Google it, there's some kind of like Canadian trout Rocky Mountain trip or something. If you do that, you'll find it. But it's a famous deal. That would be my way to go through Canada.
These cars have an internet connection. I'm going to reserve them, and we'll do the radio show from there.
That would be fun. That'd be really good.
Let me ask you a simple question about this cancellation. What's the one thing that you're bummed out on missing from the game itself? What would you have liked to see that you won't get to see next season, that would be at the top of your list?
Well, there's certain players that you're not going to see again, and so you're not going to see Franks anymore. And that's he's been a treat this year. Just the way he competes, you respect that, and the way he throws the deep pass is just a thing of beauty. I mean, he rarely missed his guy on a deep throw, and we take that for granted. It's like it's almost an art form. And you watch some of these other bowl games, and you see guys miss these deep guys for about 10 yards. It is not easy. And he did it routinely. I mean, just boom, here it comes into the little pocket, and those guys don't change stride. So I'll miss that. And whoever is the quarterback, I mean, just remember KJ. Back-to-back throws, missed a guy, that was wide open by 10 yards, and then he comes back and hits Burks. This is at Missouri. So it's not a given that when you get an open, deep shot that you hit it. That's what apparently Mac Jones has done that is just incredible for Alabama, and Kyle Trask. That's what makes those guys special. But I'll miss Jonathan Marshall. And he's one of the seniors that they would like to have back that's not coming back. And there's too much money on the line. He is probably signing with an agent in the next 48 hours. And I know that he's probably picked one. His family's interviewed a guy. So that's what I'll miss. And but it's it's going to get better, guys. They're just getting started, and I know that you listen and you go back to, I'm writing kind of a best and worst of the season for our magazine today, and you go back to the Mississippi State game, and when he's talking about, hey, we won this game, this is just the start, it's just the beginning, and that's all this was, just a foundation.
So we went into that break talking about the things that we wouldn't get to see because of the cancellation of the bowl game, Clay, but how about the things we will see? And it wasn't, with the cancellation of this game, it wasn't overall an awful week for Arkansas football when you consider the success that the coaching staff had of convincing some of these very important seniors to come back for another year, and in some cases come back for a 6th year in the case of T.J. Hammond. So that definitely adds some fuel to a little bit of extra hype heading into Sam Pittman's 2nd year.
Yeah, Blake Kern he was a redshirt senior, so this will be 6th year for him too, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He didn't play his first year. I mean, he was just a walk-on redshirt. So that, to me, that is the fascinating story of 2020, that a guy that we knew was on the team but had not been used. Maybe he blocked on extra points and field goals or something, as the wingback tight end. And he got on the field a few times, but all at once he was an important player. And, like he limped off the field is like you kind of, ooh. But, there were times he was the only tight end because Hudson Henry was hurt too. So that's a position that I see that will grow, as we roll forward. And Aaron Outley from Parkview might be the best talent in the state, and he's a C.J. O'Grady type talent. The body, the speed, the hands. So what we might see at the future, I think we'll see the development of that position in particular.
Well, so how about the idea of the biggest get-backs? I don't know how to term it this. The biggest ones being Myron Cunningham and Ty Clary. I know they put a lot of weight on the idea of Cunningham coming back at left tackle. And, I know Clary's been better at guard than at center, and that's where he'll play next year. But now you have a really experienced offensive line for next season.
Yeah, it's still got a long ways to go, and they still need to add bulk and talent and, the quickness of feet. I'm anxious to see, anxious may not be the right word, no anxiety there. Marcus Henderson's development. They list him as a tight end, but I think he'll be a tackle at some point. Clary just kind of gives you, he's a jack of all trades, and he may not be a starter. There may be, when you talk about Latham and Stromberg and Limmer, I'm not sure that he's physically as good as those three, but he can play all those positions, so there's so much value there with Ty. And now he might be a starter. He's you don't know, but it's just he's like a security blanket, just a warm fuzzy that it's good to have him back. And I have a lot of respect for Ty. And you go back, and he's just a fifth-year guy. He started his first game as a true freshman at guard, and it was kind of a stunning development that they just were void with linemen that year. They didn't have, it's been like that for really 4 years since he showed up, that they just hadn't, they hadn't restocked in a right manner in the offensive line. And that's going forward what I think where you'll see. I wrote something that was going to be the keys to victory. It was already done, and I might retool it for, later this week. But just think about where we were 2014 in NRG Stadium 6 years ago. Brett Bielema they just stoned Texas 31-7. It was a bad Texas team. It was not vintage Texas. And the offensive line was Denver Kirkland, Dan Skipper, Mitch Smothers, Sebastian Tretola, and Bray Cook. Well, they haven't been like that since then in the offensive line. Those kind of, what I call freakish animals. And that's what Sam Pittman's going to do eventually. So what you look forward to is, it may not be next year. It might be 2-3 years from now when they look like that again. So, the real get in all of this is Grant Morgan. His value to the defense is just, you got him and Catalan, to me, are just unbelievable players that fix all the mistakes and they don't miss tackles. Don't miss tackles. That is not easy to do.
You're right.
In the SEC.
You got that right. Then Clay Henry, the publisher of Hawgs Illustrated, joining us here on Halftime. Clay, we had a text message come in. We talked about this a little bit on the Morning Rush. I want to get your thoughts on this. Excuse me. This rumor that's circulating around Barry Odom drawing some interest from the LSU coaching staff and Ed Orgeron. Do you think there's any substance to this, or do you think Barry Odom will stick it out and stay here with Arkansas based off every bit of drama that's going down with LSU right now?
Don't know. I mean, I have no idea, and that would seem far-fetched, but I can't say that it's not going to happen or that it's baseless. I don't know.
I guess I'd be surprised. I think this coaching staff's going to stay together, and I think that'll be a great thing moving forward. What do you think about the quarterback battle for next year? KJ, it seems, is the assumed starter, or at least assumed number one heading into spring ball. But I don't know. I get a little nervous about accuracy issues with him, and I've never seen Malik Hornsby throw the ball. What do you think of these two?
Yeah, that's since we haven't seen any practices at all. As far as being able to just go out there and watch him throw for extended periods. We've seen basically what I call warm-ups. Don't know. And there's a reason why Hornsby's there, though. They really like him. And Lucas Coley, I think, is a talent. You hear the Rogers from Parkview that still needs development, but that he's a huge talent. But I would think it'd be Jefferson in the way he played at Missouri, the way he settled in the second half and led the team. Being able to lead the team and have them play with you, and his ability to deliver the ball to Treylon Burks, and the accuracy thing wasn't apparent in that game. Mm-hmm. He missed the one deep ball early when they just turned the guy loose. But otherwise, he gave his guys chances to catch it. There was maybe one or two where I thought, hey, he stepped and threw behind the guy, but he didn't look like last year like he could throw a slant on time. That's been fixed, and I think you'll see him continue to get better. I don't think he's reached his top level yet, and he is such a big bruising type that you like his ability to run some of that RPO stuff, and he never really got going in the running game in that particular game, but I think that's an area that he has more to give.
There's a couple of running backs in the recruiting class from Oklahoma. They went to the same high school. Is the group deep enough at running back? I know TJ's coming back. I guess he'll be at running back. I'm not really sure. I like Treylon Smith as a lead back, but do you think the depth is there? Because that was an issue at the end of this season. Yeah,
they really like the running backs that they signed. And there's one that can play wide receiver and running back, and I think they'll Kendall Briles will like doing that, being able to move guys around and in different situations, throwing and catching and running and the RPO. I think that he's just getting started too. Just remember, these guys, they didn't have spring practice. It's what they did, and everybody wants them to be perfect. And I know it's start of the year, you wanted this or that, but they didn't ever see anything live as far as offense until they played games, and it took a little while to work itself out. And I think that it was really amazing what this year was under the restrictions and the issues that they faced all year. Sam said it one time, and he's not a guy that wanted to complain, but late in the year he said, we pieced our team together every Friday morning. Just think about that.
I can only imagine what that's like for a football coach. I mean, really, that's to not know what your team is going to look like until a day before the game. But it wasn't just him; it was every coach in the country. Yeah, and what a year it's been.
Yeah, and the real difficulty in all that is, okay, what's left to play special teams? And people didn't like the way special teams look. It's just hard.
It was the scraps. It was the scraps. All right, Clay, we've come up against it here. Appreciate you, man. Hope you have a happy new year as we turn over to 2021.
Yeah, let's burn the calendar.